Hello, everyone. I am Darth Astor, and I will be reading for you the frantic writings of Pastor Theodore Pendergrass. I wrote myself. The first time, chapters 1 through 3, will be together, at least for a while. Without further ado, here we go. The frantic writings of Pastor Theodore Pendergrass, Chapter 1. The warnings. It was a quiet day in the lush mountain areas of West Virginia. My church was going on what we call a spiritual walk. The maximum time for the trail we took would have taken at least 12 hours. However, this particular trail, they say nobody really ever finishes for some reason or another. We asked the locals about the place, and they all just ignore us, look at us like they got like a deer caught in some headlights, or start mumbling under their breath or run away screaming. We did manage to find a fellow at a gas station, the only gas station near for miles before going up the mountain. I distinctly remember he said, "Don't you be taking that trail. Many a folk never come back. Strange things be happening on that trail. If they do come off, they talk about the woods coming to life and all other sort of nonsense." I asked him if he's ever been on the trail. His exact words were, "I don't know. I never been myself, but I have seen their faces when they do. Pale as ghost and slightly bruised up. Working here, I see everybody who goes up or even tries to go up that mountain. This here gas station is the last you'll see before you start up. So I suggest you stock up before you journey up the mountain." We gather all our bearings and get back to the church bus, almost 50 of us in total. Now that I recall, I wish I would have listened to the old codger. Maybe my congregation would scratch that. Maybe I would be sitting in a padded cell, writing in my own blood, rotting somewhere. I believe the sign said Arkham upon my arrival. Hopefully, I can pen this story before I make the final cut that ends my suffering mind. The drugs they give just lull me to sleep, at least for a few hours, and then the nightmarish visions of the past replay. Why in God's name am I alive? Why am I cursed with the memory? Why are all these professors and doctors looking at me and asking me questions? They, why are these people from Miskatonic University asking me questions as well? They even brought the head of the Wilmarth Foundation to talk to me, and he's all the way from England. All within a week. Well, at least it seems like a week. At least I think a week has passed. I have no idea what day it is. They just look through the glass and talk through a radio speaker of sorts built into the ceiling. I relive it in my sleep. I give them my account during my wakings. They are much more current now. Sleep seems to evade a lot more even now. They say if I confess, I can get out of this padded cell with a reduced sentence and all my ramblings and nightmares. I believe there is nothing to confess. I keep telling them, and then it's away from the door they go. Judging by the 3 meals they bring before everything goes dark, 2 months had passed. I'm going to try to tell the truth and document what really happened on that mountain. They they will not get a confession of mass murder upon those rocky trails. As long as I live, I will bleed out before they do. Hope someone with some real expertise finds these records, these ramblings, these writings. Maybe even actually do their jobs and investigate these twisted, gnarled, tree-covered hills. Every other week, according to the meals they send, there is this local mountain cop coming and asking me questions with a recorder on. I keep telling him it was the trees, because he really wouldn't believe the truth. Every time I tell him, he looks at me, turning double red, turns the recorder off, and proceeds to beat the ever living shit out of me. And he keeps doing it, wanting me to sign these papers confessing to the murder of almost my entire congregation of 48 people. The media has me labeled worse than the Jonestown massacre. Just sign the confession, and you could be let out of this room into a normal cell with a reduced sentence. But as a pastor and a man of the cloth, the truth comes e- the truth comes easy and a lot less venomous. I turn the other cheek and take my beating, spitting blood on every copy he he keeps bringing me. I scream, "By the blood, I shall be cleansed." 6 more weeks pass. The beatings continue. It's been 12 weeks now. My jaw is now broken. I can't speak even if they wanted me to. Now they finally give me a pen out of my sign requesting it as soon as I got here. Finally, I get the pen. Now maybe I could pen this story. What the cops said, what was left of my congregation, is barely enough to fill a metal lunchbox we used to carry in schools when we were children. A toe here, a finger there, whole skulls, bones gone, nothing but scraps. But still he asks about that night. It is apparent that the cops knows more than he leads on. He keeps asking me where I hid the eyes. Like I know. I'm in this cell. My interrogator also stated they found no eyes. Probably thinks I keep them for ritualistic purposes. But what if a ritual requires eyes? I believe the fellow said his name was Reginald Johnson. The name, oh, that blasted name, the corrupt bastard waste of flesh Hence, maybe I've finally lost it. Are they winning? And will I rot forever in this cell? Am I going to die here? A year goes by. Once a clean-shaven man of the cloth, now disheveled, bloody, and bearded. Blood from my own fingers as to where my prints would be taken. Now my nails are my writing tools to speak the truth of what happened on that blasted mountain. And if I go back, it will be too soon. They took the pen after I got tired of taking my beating and showed that bastard with a badge he's not the only one that could deal out a proper beating. I tangled his hand up in my cuffed hands and proceeded to bash his head against the wall. The next morning, I want to say before breakfast, I hear knocking on my cell door. It opens. They come and tell me I have to go with a fellow from the Wilmarth Foundation, Josiah Josiah Jesse Crow is his name. I remember now as I signed the papers for my release into his custody. As we step out into the empty parking lot. An empty parking lot. Who knows why it's all empty? Seems like there was a lot of people there. Oh. The sign says visitors parking. Guess there's hardly any visitors. The way into his car, he tells me there's fresh clothes in the back for me. I look around, all I see is a huge suitcase in the floor. I open it up, and oddly, Josiah hears the latch on the suitcase and and joyfully says, I hope they fit you properly. I could not have measured you with the cameras recording visitations. I look at him startled. They film us too? Well, they do have safety precautions, Father Pendergrass. Sorry to ask, but why did you bail me out into your custody? As well as I could with a broken jaw. It's almost time. Time for what? I said with the widest eyes that you ever seen a man, or cartoon for that matter. Looks in the rearview mirror and says, time to revisit your nightmares. Chapter 2. Research and Recovery. Whether it is the pain meds that Jesse gave me or the calmness that I feel around him, I slept peaceful. However, upon my waking, I found myself in a hospital bed. My jaw still hurts and wired shut, but I could eat. Even the prison food was a nicety in comparison to sucking liquid purified meat through a straw. Normally, again, I would humbly accept peas, but it's not this gelatinous, slimy mess of pureed ichor that is presented in this styrofoam cup. As soon as I finished my last bit of goo that they call food, My memory serves me correct, no nightmares. But strange enough, I had a device like one of those sweatbands that people wore in the 1980s on my head. Only this particular one had wires embedded in it and glued to my head. A blinking red light like a sensor of sorts, apparently sending information across the hall. This computer with a satellite on top, blinking just as rapidly as the sensor. Whatever they saw on that monitor had them cowering in fear. As I lay down, I hear a knock from my room door. It's Jesse Crow again. I don't know why he wants me to call him Jesse. Asking about exactly where I was when I saw this thing that killed everyone. He said to me, the Wilmarth Foundation has been tracking this abysmal creature for a while now. He has a hunch that encountering this thing will lead him to his grandfather. He called it Bran Gamorth. Gamorb? A confusing name. I've heard of Cthulhu and the Great Old Ones, but in all my days I never thought I would encounter one. He puts the suitcase back in the car. He, he looks at me and says, we have a long drive to Miskatonic University. Miskatonic? Why are we going there? Why, yes, you've been released into my custody for murder. I can't possibly get you on a plane, let alone through customs, he says sarcastically as he possibly can for his deadpan face to deliver. Since you're still on the mend, we cannot possibly take this dream monitoring equipment with us. We have to make one more stop before going back up that mountain. Why? I wondered. You seem to be linked to it in your dreams somehow. Maybe we could track it through your dreams. If we can see my dreams? Jesse smirks cheerfully. Yes, your dreams. Don't worry, Mr. Pendergrass. We will figure this all out, but we will need more help. And I have just the the specific people for this exact task. Have you have you worked with them before? Have you worked with them before? Not directly, however. They have helped me with situations before. I do believe their help is in order with this task, Mr. Pendergrass. Jesse dry smugness as he puts the pet to the floor into the sunset. Chapter 3. The Dreamwalker. About 5 hours on the road to the quaint little log cabin in the woods, in a mountain valley near a river, unseen by boat, obscured by old moss and fungi-riddled trees. Upon further examination, seemed to be centuries old. From the river hillside overgrowth that has taken over nature's hold at its finest, with vines weaved betwixt the logs in and out, almost like nature had patched up the cabin's leaky holes, kind of like nature's band-aid. The door was rather new and had a bare-faced knocker. Porch was all covered in wild roses, thorns gnarled and growing up the columns. We knocked upon the door, and out of the shadow of the entryway, a scrawny woman stands smiling. Then she speaks in a gravelly voice. Please come in. I dreamt you were coming. But why? So you're the dream walker? Yes, she replied, lighting a cigarette. And the name's Mariel. I lost my. Hold on. Uh, what I do not know is why you need me to come with you. Jesse exclaims. Hold the phone. You knew you needed to come with us? Why, yes. I already packed. Well, the sooner we get out of here, the sooner I could clear my name. Suddenly, the engines rev up, and shouting is heard in the distance. She brandishes a rifle out from behind the couch and points it at us. What followed you here? Sounds more like who? Right? Any more of those? Those are not us in those cars. She she points to a china cabinet loaded with the biggest amount of plates and china I've ever seen in my entire life. Moving the cabinet, the wall behind came ajar, leading to a room full of old rifles, blunderbusses, and flintlock pistols, all looking like they were straight out of the French and Indian War. About a dozen of old army crates full of ammunition for the guns and the ammunition for the guns that they were under. Well, looks like you prepared for this too. No, knew nothing about this. Just a gun collector, she retorts to Jesse just as quickly as the quip left his lips, almost as if she had this conversation before. The engines stop, and the people with black hooded robes step out. The hoods are draped so low you couldn't make out a face even with a rifle mounted scope. They light Molotovs and throw them on the porch, screaming at the cabin is set ablaze. Never come back to the mountain! While we break the back window and escape the fiery hell that suddenly became her living room, into the woods, we retreat behind the cabin, ignoring all the thorn and briar bushes. As we were leaving, one of them falls out of the back of the tailgated truck. We go up to him once the coast is cleared. It seems this one hit his head on a rock upon his little tumble out of the truck. We drag him further into the woods and tie him to a tree, nursing his wounds whilst waiting for him to wake. Removing the hood, looking at his face with that beard. I remember. You're the guy from the gas station. Yeah, and I stand by what I said. Don't be going up that mountain. May Yog-Sothoth grant us eyes to the dreamlands. A bullet flies through the woods and into our captive's head. What do they want inside the dreamlands? Why Yog-Sothoth? And most importantly, why frame me? What exactly is Brangamorth? Finally, what you've all been waiting for. That's the end of chapters 1 through 3. And now, a sneak peek at chapter 4. Mariel, Dreamwalking, and Other Trips. As we make our way to the car, the morning light shines on the river, looking back at the pile of ash and smoke that was Mariel's house. Oddly enough, no police or fire trucks. Quite peculiar since there was a fire. We drive away. Mariel is still shaking. You would think she would be a little more distraught to see her house burn to the ground, but other than shaking, she's as cool as a cucumber. So I ask if she's okay. She replies, shocked, I always wondered what the dream was. When I saw when I saw the black smoke, now I see. She says as she lights another cigarette. You need to sleep, Theodore, for me to work. Okay, okay, but the nightmares. Don't you worry about the nightmares. We need to see them to get a clue of how to find this Brangamoth. She says in this low, almost seductive, gravelly voice. How long till we get there, Jessie? She asked with a smile. About 3 hours. Not much time for rest. Well, Theodore's already conked out. Puts her hands together once. Time to work. She puts her hands on Theodore's head as her voice gets higher. The trees only have leaves on one side. Looks like a small winding trail, moving fast into a cave. Slightly off the trail, a plateau, flat enough to be a campsite. It's so dark, I cannot see anymore. Mariel takes her hand off, shaking and rocking back and forth in the car with Theodore quivering greatly. Surely she will wake him. But the last note. Are you okay, Mariel? Jesse asked with a look upon his face. I'm okay. What in the what in the actual fuck are you looking for that you need me? That people are willing to kill their own, and possibly us too if we do not. What are we looking for that actually killed Theo's entire congregation? Well, this gangly man killed 50 or so people. That's a good one. Seriously, Meryl, this man is a hardened criminal. Winking at her in the rearview mirror. Oh, obviously, he's a total badass. He's a total badass. He's gonna kill a cereal when he wakes. Maybe a whole buffet. Did I forget to mention what I do comes with a price every time I dreamwalk? I lose a year off my life. And for him, he's gonna be starving. I beg your pardon, it steals a year of your life? But you look barely 30. Yes, and I only started smoking about a year ago. All this seems worthy cause to lose a couple more years. Besides, this man looks like he could barely hurt a fly, let alone kill 50 grown people. Why is this Brian Gamot so important to find? I'm sure you've heard of the SCP Foundation. The truth is, that is not too much further away from what the Wilmoth Foundation does. But some are just too dangerous to contain, so we just track them. I got a feeling this is going to be the case. If we get a tracking device on it without any more bloodshed, then hurrah! That may not be the case either. We will see when the time comes. Can you still drive, Theodore? Yes, but my license expired while I was in jail. We really do not want unwanted attention to what we are doing. If the police get involved, we could bugger off on this expedition. If the press get wind of it. Press? Why's the press so bad? I asked, puzzled. If they find out proof of eldritch entities are real and living among us, it would be widespread panic. We are talking a panic on a global scale if word gets out like this. It would be catastrophic. The whole world, maybe even the universe as we know it. So, the SCP is just a cover-up operation? Yes, it's just a cover. And precisely, Theodore, that is why we must make haste. That is all I got of the third time editing of Chapter 4. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did writing it and everything I've put into it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for just being here. This is Darth Haster. Have a great old one.